Hello my creative critters, and welcome to Sketching with Sarah. I'm Sarah, and for this week's video I want to share how I got inspired by other artists this week and how I applied this inspiration to create this really surreal and colorful mixed media illustration. So this week, as I was coming up with the video topic, the beautiful and talented Emily Artful posted a video here on YouTube sharing her experiences with her family and Miss Rona, if you know what I mean. My heart goes out to them, and I hope they're all recovering and doing well and staying safe. Also to the other people who were in the premiere chat with me expressing hardships through this time as well, my thoughts are with you and I'm wishing you all the best. But anyway, as I was listening to her talk about this, I think this watercolor illustration she created in this video is my favorite one I've seen her create yet. She does a lot of dark and more macabre and unique concepts that are all amazing, but this one in particular really drew me in. Drew me in. This piece really fascinated me, not only with her beautiful watercolor technique, but also this dreamy concept with the pretty girl and the fishbowl spilling, and little stingrays with the conch shell hats. It's kind of hard to explain, so I'll just briefly show an image of it here, but I really want you guys to go over to her channel and watch her video and her process, because I really got a lot out of it, as I do with all her watercolor videos, and it was just so inspiring to me to watch her work through it. So please go watch her video and show some support. I'll have her social media linked in my description as well. So the little stingrays in particular were really what got me inspired, and how they were just kind of floating in space. And I just love that idea, so I thought, what if I revisited that Aladdin idea I had with the Stingray magic carpet ride over the Arabian city, but like with overgrown coral and seaweed and other plant life underwater? I'll insert a sketch that I showed in a past sketchbook tour I did on this channel, and I decided not to do that one right now because I think I want to save that for a 3D designing project in ZBrush so I can plan out the buildings virtually and make it easier to draw, since I'm not the best at perspective. Architecture and drawing in perspective was always too nitpicky and precise for me. Not that I can't do it, it's just if I can get away with knots, I won't. And I always avoided it if I could, and after getting out of my comfort zone last week, I feel like I wanted to do a drawing more familiar and comfortable to me. So I took this stingray in the sky idea and thought, what if instead of underwater, it was straight up in a pretty spring meadow, and instead of one, there was a bunch of them. So I'm sure you can tell by now that's what I decided to do. I recently watched an Ethan Becker video here on YouTube showing how useful taking your own video references and not photo references, and he's really entertaining to watch and overall has some really great content and tips on his channel, so I'll be linking his socials in my description too. So since I don't have access to actual stingrays to take my own video references, I spent a lot of time watching stingray videos, specifically videos of divers swimming with them, and I went in and took a ton of screenshots and scrubbed frame by frame the videos to find a nice image of a group of stingrays. A useful tip is on YouTube, if you pause any video and click the comma and period key on your keyboard, you can scrub one frame at a time, and I definitely use the heck out of that to find these images. I learned that in my 2D animation class, so thanks for that. After I found a pretty great frame of a bunch of stingrays in a good composition, I started sketching where I wanted them exactly to be in my illustration, and tweaked their positioning and spacing a little to my liking, and redrew it on my hot press watercolor block. Then, since I used a red watercolor pencil to sketch onto the final paper, I used my water brush pen to soften and blend out the sketch to make it softer for when I start layering the watercolor onto it. For the watercolor part, I'm using my White Nights watercolor palette, and I just love how pigmented and bright all the colors are in this palette. I did swatch all of them and created little blob creatures out of each color. In this video up here, I'll have an annotation. So if you're interested to see swatches of these colors, definitely check out that video, which is one of the palettes that Emily Artful uses too. Then I started adding some of the lighter areas where I wanted flowers to be in the foreground, and filled in the rest with green and started adding bits of shading to the stingrays. I won't lie, I love the texture and look of watercolor, but I also hate it because when I get to that rendering stage, I can't get as tight as I'd like to, because it leaves dark lines around the edges where it dries, and you can't really control it as much as I'd like to, so the real fun for me starts in the colored pencil and ink stages of my mixed media process, and that's where I really get to take control back and tighten everything up. Another one of my favorite artists here on YouTube is Chris Hong Art, and I've actually been following her for a while on Instagram before I knew she had YouTube, but recently she uploaded a video expressing how she was in awe and how well she thought she used to use watercolor and only watercolor throughout her whole process. She expressed being discouraged that she just doesn't feel like she can do it as good anymore, as in just using watercolor the whole time, and that she likes to add colored pencil now too. I used to think of adding colored pencil and ink into my watercolor was acting like a crutch for my okay watercolor skills, and now I just straight up embrace that the watercolor is just a small step of my process, and I like it that way. I do admire watercolor artists who only use watercolor, but honestly I also love when artists can adapt and work with what's in front of them, and if that means adding colored pencil or gouache or white gel pen or even acrylic to make the piece better, I think that's better than limiting your art because you feel like you are only allowed to use watercolor because you are only a watercolor artist or you are only an ink artist, etc. Not that being a one medium artist is bad by any means, and I think it's amazing that artists master their medium and create great things, but I think it's important to not think less of adding more medium to your pieces. I don't see it as cheating at all or taking the easy way out. I honestly just see it as knowing what your piece needs and moving forward to make it the best it can be. I'm so happy to see Chris starting to embrace working with other medium in her art and stepping outside her comfort zone because I think it's really going to help her grow as an artist in the long run, and I'm really excited to see what she creates in the future. I'll have links to all her social media in my description along with her online shop and everything else, so you can go check those out and show her some support too. For the background, I found a reference photo of a meadow scene with a color palette I liked and used that as inspiration for the scenery and the meadow in the background. I was really drawn by all the vibrant colors and pinks in this color palette for this one, and I've been watching a lot of Animal Crossing island tours, and lots of people set their dream addresses to cherry blossom season to tour on. And for those of you who don't play Animal Crossing, you can save your island that you decorate and landscape and everything as a dream address with a code so that others can use that code to view your island without you having to be there, which is an amazing feature, by the way. And I'm obsessed with the cherry blossom trees, and since I could only get my hands on a Switch in June or July this past year, I missed the cherry blossom season, and I can't wait for my trees to bloom with cute pink flowers everywhere this year. So I wanted some pink blooming trees in the background and a field of wildflowers in the foreground. Now I decided to make the stingrays mostly pink, because why not? This drawing is my world and I thought it would be different, and I felt like having them be gray or more true to their color in real life, it wouldn't fit the background as well. And again, why not have some pink stingrays? I make the rules, and as Bob Ross said, whatever makes you happy, you put in your world. And yes, Bob, yes I will. Pink stingrays make me very happy. I did end up adding more orange and purple into the stingrays as I went along with the colored pencil to make it stand out with the pink trees in the background. I love to take my time and really crisp everything up at this stage, like the edges on the stingrays and other elements of the drawing using the colored pencils. And I was kind of overwhelmed with the amount of flowers in the foreground, so I kind of put that off till everything else was started on. Then I went in and drew one by one in all the petals and stems to the flowers and tried to make each one a little different. Something I loved about the piece that Emily created that inspired this whole thing was the bubbles and the vines and little leaves and stuff she added in the background. They were so subtle, but it was just enough detail to give that depth to the piece, and I really enjoyed that. So I wanted to use that inspiration and add a little bit of that too within the flowers of the foreground to make it look more full, but so that you can still see them pretty clearly. I didn't really get dark enough in the flower areas, really enough to make it read as a dense grass, and the flowers and stems do kind of just look like they're stuck on like stickers, but honestly I don't really care, and I kind of like the pattern look of it. Then I added some dirt area to suggest a bit of a dip in the land to the stream in the center of the drawing, and then started to get into the line art. I love doing the line art the most, and I really take my time with each and every line and really just enjoy the process. It's just so satisfying to me. But unfortunately, I don't want to make you guys sit through 8 hours of everything in real time, so obviously I sped this up a lot. I took my time with each of the stingrays first, and originally I wanted to leave the line art in just the stingrays only, but after enjoying the process so much, I decided to add a little bit of ink throughout the rest of the piece to unify it a bit more, but not so much that it distracts from the stingrays, stingrays that much. I mean, when I look at it, my eye goes right to the flowers and up through the stingrays, and honestly, I don't mind that because I wanted the stingrays to be just as important as the background, because I wanted it to read as a really unified scene. Like, hey, these stingrays are just minding their own business, and they're not necessarily the star of the show demanding all of your attention, if that makes sense. I haven't really talked that deep about composition in a while, since I really haven't had a proper critique session for a class or anything like that in a long time, since I graduated in May. Anyway, while I was adding the ink to the flowers, I really had to hold myself back from outlining every little petal and leaf all the way, and instead I inked strategic petals and lines and broken up lines within the flowers and the leaves, just to add a pop of ink here and there to unify the piece, and not to make you want to look at all the details in the flowers the whole time. After adding ink here and there and the rest of the background, I decided that the top half of the drawing was so pink and the flowers looked too separated from it, so I decided to add little specks of pink in the gaps of the flowers and grass to bring more pink into the lower right. It's really subtle, but I feel like it adds something more that it didn't have before, and it definitely stands out more in person. I added some more of the cast shadows to the trees and more grass here and there, and I decided to call it complete. I was naming the folder to keep all the files for this video in, and the title Rays of Sunshine came to mind, and I think it just suits it perfectly. Let me know what you think of that title of this illustration, or what would you name it? But right now, I think Rays of Sunshine is perfect. But I'm still interested to hear what you would call it. I want to know what your favorite art medium is to work with. In all my years of art school, I've tried basically everything you can think of, including ceramics, woodworking, welding, digital sculpting, weaving, and probably all the 2D mediums you can think of to get my degree, and I gained a lot from learning how to use them. Even if it is that I hate it and I never want to do it again. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more art and animal-related content. I upload a new video every Friday, and my goal for 2021 is to reach 500 subscribers, because then I'll be halfway to being monetized, which is my goal for 2022. I can't thank you guys enough for all the kind words and feedback you guys give me in the comments. They truly make my day, and the fact that people are impacted enough on my silly YouTube videos that they write a little note on it for me, it's just so special to me, and I'm very thankful for the little creative critter community we've created so far. I respond to every comment, so don't be shy and let's talk about art. Thank you guys so much for watching, stay creative, and I'll see you in next Friday's video. To cherry brush